Welcome back. We're talking Israeli politics today, the new government's first cabinet meeting and the longer-term effects on the whole Middle East. That, of course, means first and foremost the Palestinians. And they, and the Palestinian Authority in particular, have made it very clear they're unhappy with what they call Netanyahu's vague commitment to the peace process. And to make matters worse, in their view, was the announcement by Avigdor Lieberman that he didn't feel bound by that Annapolis peace process. Now, in fact, this is what an angry senior Palestinian Authority official had to say. He said, quote, "If Netanyahu or his government continue to do what the Israeli government has done, even more vigorously, the consequence is the practical end of the Palestinian Authority as a structure." Now, the reason he says this is because the PA, officially the Palestinian National Authority, was actually created as a mechanism to get the Palestinians towards statehood. It was born out of the 1993 Oslo Accords. It was inaugurated a year later. It was given transitional status, which includes interim self-government and a phased transfer of power and territory. So what Rafiq Husseini was actually saying in that quote is that without even the prospect of a Palestinian state, which is how he views it under a Netanyahu government, what use is the Palestinian Authority? How can it carry out its stated mandate? Still with us, our guests in Nablus, Abdul Sattar Qasim, in Jerusalem, Gerald Steinberg, and in Cairo is Hassan Issa. Let's return to Nablus and speak to Abdul Sattar Qasim, because there seems to be perhaps a bit of history repeating itself here. The Palestinian Authority has made something of a threat like this before, ironically, back when Benjamin Netanyahu took power back in 1996 again. Is this almost a way of the Palestinian Authority making a threat and drawing attention to itself?
Yeah, historically speaking, they have been threatening to end the negotiations process so many times. Not only at the time of Netanyahu, but at the time of Barak, at the time of Livni, and so on. And they always reiterated that the Israelis are damaging the negotiations process by continuing the settlement activity in the West Bank. And they always threatened to end the negotiations because of that activity. The activity has been going on, and the negotiations has been going on also. So I think the Palestinian Authority is saying so for public consumption, for domestic consumption, that's it. But they cannot end the negotiations. They cannot decide even, because the Palestinian Authority actually does not have a free will to decide for its own people. The Palestinian Authority is driven particularly by the United States, Western Europe, and Israel. And there are so many Palestinian figures who are tied and connected with the Israelis, and they always coordinate with them. So I personally, as a political science professor, I haven't seen that they are serious about what they are saying. And from their daily activity, I can notice that they don't care so much about the the Palestinian national rights. They are concerned mostly about their personal privileges that they have been receiving from both the Americans and the Israelis. So I don't think that they will do anything new under this new Netanyahu administration.
Gerald Steinberg in Jerusalem, what do you make of that? Do you think the Palestinian Authority, much is made of the Palestinian Authority being weak at the moment and the Palestinians being divided. Are they best serving the Palestinian people at the moment in any potential peace process?
Well, I'm not going to judge what serves or doesn't serve the Palestinian people. I'm in Israel. It's very hard for me to envision what goes on the other side and the Palestinian side. We hear many, many different voices, and that's part of the problem. What I can say is that from the far Israeli right, people that are even to the right of Netanyahu and even of Lieberman, their argument is there is no Palestinian Authority. So I think, ironically, what we often have is the extremists getting together. The far Israeli right says, look, there is no Palestinian Authority. The people who really run the show are Hamas. And Hamas has no interest in negotiations. They want to wipe us off the map. We have Hamas in Gaza, 8,000 rockets. We just had a very bitter war. Many people were killed. It was a great tragedy. And what does Hamas do? It tries to bring in more weapons from Iran, this time through Sudan, through ships that are now stuck in Cyprus. This is a war process. It's not a peace process. And the Palestinian Authority is just good for taking pictures. That's what the far Israeli right says. The talks in Egypt, which have given Palestinians hope, and have given Egyptians a very important role, have also given Israeli centrists a lot of hope. They would like to see a united Palestinian Authority committed to a peace process. That means ending the rhetoric of destruction. It means ending the terrorism and violence, which has accompanied everything Israelis and Palestinians have done since 1947, long before the occupation, long before the 67 war. There's always been terrorism and violence from the Palestinians who want to wipe Israel off the map. So Hamas represents what Arafat used to represent. The Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, the remains of that group, as my colleague Mr. Qassem said, Professor Qassem said in Nablus recently, he said that many Palestinians see the PA and Fatah as corrupt. I hope I'm correcting you, quoting you correctly. People who cannot govern. Israelis also see that same thing. We worry about our own government, our own coalition put together by so many different parties, but we don't see in a very clear way centrists do not see on the Palestinian side a coherent government that's ready to negotiate and ready to create a Palestinian state. And that's what Israelis, the vast majority, really want to see. A two-state solution, a stable Palestinian government that's capable of running the lives of Palestinians and will not be making war against Israel all the time. So that's what Israelis hope will be a stable, steady state solution.
So Hassan Issa in Cairo, if that is all, as Gerald Steinberg has been saying, that apparently Hamas actually really has the power and the PA is weak, what on earth should the PA do? Because they are viewed as the only true partner and the only people who Israel will talk to and the only people who the international community should talk to. What should they do now in this current position?
I tend to agree with my colleague in Jerusalem, Professor Steinberg, in the sense that it is not a pretext, but it's a fact. The problem is that we have a split Palestinian front, which makes it very difficult for anybody to intervene. We're having a very hard time trying to conciliate some sort of agreement between all the parties concerned. It is because of outside interventions, whether against Fatah and the authority or against Hamas. But I can say in the overall picture, from what I saw during these last years, what this area suffers from is this lack of real leadership. Because I was there when we signed our peace agreement. Then there was real leadership. There was a Begin, and there was a Sharon even, and there was a Peres, and they all exist. These were leaders. Now, I don't think the Israelis have that caliber of leaders. Neither does the Palestinians have that caliber of leaders that they used to have. So we are going to face a real problem. In Egypt, we are facing that problem in trying to mend the bridges between Hamas and Fatah. I cannot say that Hamas is doing that amount of harm that my colleague, Mr. Steinberg, is trying to describe, because they are not really that damaging. They have been damaged themselves. Considering the 1,500 murdered, massacred, shall I put it, in Gaza and the 7,000 wounded, I don't think Hamas has done as much harm as has been done to them themselves.
Okay, so let me just interrupt just very briefly, because we're just running short of time. I want to get a final thought from Abdul Sattar Qassem, because Hassan Issa has brought up this point of reconciliation, this point of division within the Palestinians. Now, he says there's no united front, and that's a problem. I wonder if there would be a problem with a united front anyway, because if Hamas is in on the scene with the Palestinian Authority or with Fatah, people don't seem to like talking to Hamas either.
Well, yeah, the split within the Palestinians, yeah, makes a difference. But the basic problem is Palestinian national rights. And everybody is talking about a Palestinian state. As I said, it is actually a Palestinian entity, not a state, and they are not mentioning the basic Palestinian national rights, on top of which is the return of the refugees. There are 6 million Palestinians who are outside. The Palestinian Authority is not talking about these refugees or the national rights even. So basically, the Palestinian Authority does not have the grounds, and even Israel and the United States haven't been very helpful for the Palestinian Authority to keep it credible. And they robbed the Palestinian Authority from its credibility because they haven't been giving anything to this authority. Only what they have been doing is just sending salaries to the Palestinian governmental employees, and that's not enough. That's not convincing for the Palestinians. So if there is actually something convincing, it would be easier for all parties within the Palestinian society to come together and cooperate, to accept or to get that something. But so far, there is nothing in the horizon. Nobody is offering true, tangible achievement for the Palestinians. That's why I think this situation will continue, and Hamas will continue to gain more grounds in the Palestinian society.
Gentlemen, we are going to leave it there. My thanks to all our guests today, Abdul Sattar Qasim in Nablus, Gerald Steinberg in Jerusalem, and Hassan Issa in Cairo. And thank you to our viewer for joining us here for Inside Story. Your comments, your suggestions, you know where to send them. Inside Story at aljazeera.net. From the whole team, goodbye for now.